Welcome back to another video. Today I'll be doing a quick book haul and review on two books that I've recently read that I enjoyed. So I'll start with the first book I've read recently, which is Civilization, the West and the Rest by Neil Ferguson. It's a 500-year history of the West within the last, obviously, 500 years, about why it came to dominate the rest of the world and the reasons behind this domination. And he brings up 6 main points, and it goes over, for each point, a different civilization, so like Japan or China or Africa, and it shows why each one of these points was able to make the European powers dominate the others. It was an interesting book. I read it like a 4 out of 5. It was well written, it was engaging, it went by pretty fast. I also have read Augustine and the Limits of Politics by Jean Bethke Elshtain, I believe that's how you pronounce the name. This was a very good book. Despite the fact that it has politics in the name, I'd say it focuses more on Augustine's philosophy of caritas and how love should be the primary factor in one's involvement in the world, and had less to do with actual Augustinian politics. Well, yes, it does touch on Augustine's politics, and she disagrees with the fact that Augustine is usually characterized as a pessimistic thinker. It's still a very well-written book, and on most of the points I agree with her interpretation of Augustine, and I'd give it also like a 4 out of 10. So now, books I've recently gotten. I bought Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals by Kant, and this is Kant's main ethical book. And he goes into deontology, which essentially states that any moral law should be subscribed to regardless or not of its consequences. And I also got Kant, A Revolution in Thinking, written by Marcus Wilczek. This is a very good introduction to Kant, according to what I've heard. And I want to get into Kant because I do want to read the Critique of Pure Reason, the big one, sometime later this year. And now, I got 2 books by Charles Taylor. One of them is Hegel, so obviously about Hegel. And Charles Taylor just goes over an overview of Hegelian philosophy, and he looks at it as a whole and not the individual parts. So I feel like this book will be very good. Because I also want to read Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit. So these 2 I'll read together, and the Kant books I will read together. The other book by Charles Taylor is one of his own personal works that has to do with his own personal philosophy, which is Sources of Self. It says in the back, this inquiry into the sources of modern selfhood. Charles Taylor showed that the modern turn inward is not disastrous, but is in fact a result of long efforts to define and reach the good. At the heart of this definition, he finds what he calls the affirmation of ordinary life, a value that has decidedly, if not completely, replaced an older conception of reason as connected to hierarchy based on birth and wealth. In telling the story of a revolution whose proponents have been Augustine, Montaigne, Luther, and a host of others, Taylor's goal is in part to make sure we do not lose sight of their goal and endanger all that has been achieved. Sources of the Self provides a decisive defense of the modern order and a sharp rebuff to its critics. So yeah, the fact that it has to do with Augustine is the main pulling factor towards it. I do want to research more deeply into like concepts of self and identity, and I feel like this book will be a good introduction. And that's also another reason I like this book a lot, because it did have to do with Augustine's conception of identity in relationship to others. And now I got Existentialism is a Humanism by Jean-Paul Sartre. It's a very famous book. And yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about it. I do want to read more modern contemporary philosophers. I'm slowly making my way up through history. I got Dublin Years by James Joyce, which is a collection of short stories by James Joyce set in Dublin. I got the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. And this is one of the primary texts, well, it is the primary text of Taoism, one of the primary 4 texts of Chinese philosophies. So like Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, and legalism, I believe, is a 4th one. So yeah, this is very short, and the pages don't have that many words in them. So it's one of those books I read in a day. And yeah, Taoism is very interesting. I'm not sure I'll agree with it. And then the final book I've gotten is Human Alter Human by Nietzsche. This isn't really it doesn't have one point and end goal it wants to articulate. This book is primarily more of a synoptic overview of certain ideas that Nietzsche is interested in and writes about in aphorisms. Some of the aphorisms are like six words, and then some of them are multiple pages. So yeah, this will be a fun read. I'll pair it with Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. Like, subscribe. More content to come. I'll be making a series throughout the summer, which will be an overview of Augustine's full philosophical project. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.